Behave yourself, man!
Was the night before Brexit. One more sleep, as one Leave-supporting blog tweeted today. By this time tomorrow, the Prime Minister will have triggered Article 50 and Britain's departure from the European Union will be officially underway. As we'll hear over the course of tonight's programme, there is much still to be resolved. In a moment, Emily gets Marine Le Pen's take on Brexit and, of course, a whole lot more. But first, I'm joined by our political editor, Nicholas Watts, in the studio. Hi, Nick. And, of course, our diplomatic editor, Mark Urban, is in Berlin for us as well. Evening, Mark. Nick, let's just go straight to it. What is exactly going to happen tomorrow?
Well, it'll all have the feel of a budget day. Theresa May will brief ministerial colleagues at an early meeting of the Cabinet. Then she'll do her normal Prime Minister's questions, and that then will be followed by her statement on the Article 50 letter. At around the time that she stands up in the Commons, the UK ambassador to the EU, Sir Tim Barrow, will hand that signed copy, the real copy of that letter, to the European Council President Donald Tusk in Brussels. And Donald Tusk is then expected to tweet that he's received it, and that will mark the formal triggering of Article 50.
OK, what we really want to know is what is in that letter.
Well, I'm told that the tone of the letter will be friendly. It will essentially set out the framework of her Lancaster House speech back in January. And what that said is close trading relationship, but no membership of the European single market. What I'm told is going to be really interesting is what is not in the letter. It will not, I'm told, get into generalities. You will not see a sum of money on what the UK is prepared or not prepared to pay for the exit bill. And I'm told that there will not be anything, any date on a cut-off date for when the rights of EU citizens in the UK will stop. What I'm told the guiding thought is do not repeat the mistake of David Cameron, who put too much detail in his letter for his EU negotiations and gave the impression that he was scared of walking away.
So keep your cards close. OK, Mark, what's the reaction been in Europe? You've been gauging that today.
Well, I think what we can expect tomorrow is firstly expressions of regret that Britain is going ahead with this. And then I think pretty swiftly after that, some fundamental declarations of principle. Now, on that financial issue that Nick mentioned, I think that you can expect a pretty hard line. The EU's legal advice is that Britain is liable for its budget contributions. One person told me here tonight at least 45 billion euros between now and 2020. And they simply will say they won't budge on that. By about a month's time, the formal negotiating guidelines will have been given to their negotiator, Michel Barnier, and then I think things will go quiet for a while for a whole load of reasons, including elections in this country, among others. And then I think we will see things playing into next year, with particularly the German strategy and that of the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, I think, to be to take a tough line and to offer Britain as many opportunities to change its mind as possible, right up to that vote on the terms of the deal as it's being proposed that will happen in Parliament towards the end of this process.
OK, Mark, thanks very much. Nick, a quick word as well. We can't forget today there's been another vote in Scotland to request another independence referendum.
And a predictable response from the UK government saying now is not the time to have that. But interestingly, on Thursday, David Davis, the Brexit secretary, will say to the Scottish government and the other devolved administrations, the UK government doesn't want to hoard power. And he will say that he is prepared to hand back some, but not all powers on fisheries and agriculture to those devolved administrations. David Davis will do that when he sets out the next stage after the triggering of Article 50. That is the Great Repeal Bill that does two things. One, it annuls the Act of Parliament that took us into the then EEC. And secondly, it brings back into UK law all that EU law known as the acquis communautaire. But really interesting, on the next stage after that, what of those EU laws that will be in UK law, what they should repeal, he will say that is not for this Parliament, that is for the next Parliament. Put it in the Tory manifesto.
The reaction is going to be very interesting. Nick, thanks very much. And Mark Urban in Berlin, thank you too. So, once the ceremonies of tomorrow's triggering are all done with, eyes will turn to a possible deal and the possibility of no deal at all. Well, here with me now are two Conservative MPs. We have Anna Soubry, a Remainer, and Bernard Jenking, a Brexiteer. Good evening.
Good evening. An ex-Remainer.
Ex-Remainer.
Well, I mean, we're leaving, aren't we? Yeah. So I just think we ought to get the language right, because we're leaving the EU. So I don't know what you call me.
Well, are you a happy leaver?
No, of course I'm not. I think our country's lost the plot, and I'm extremely worried about our future. Well, but we've got this vote, we've got to deliver it. I think the Prime Minister's been remarkably courageous in stepping up and accepting this baton, which she clearly would not have chosen to have had. And she's now got to deliver 4 bespoke deals in under 2 years. Almost an impossible task.
Do you not think she'll be able to do it?
No, but I think she's got to be big and brave to say if we need more time, if we need a transition period, she's got to do that. And she's most of all got to resist the calls from dear Bernard here, who will urge her with his merry band who've been wreaking havoc in my party for decades to avoid a hard Brexit, which nobody in my constituency, nor I believe anywhere else in the country, voted for.
Is it a problem if there is no deal? Because Anna, you've said it's almost impossible for her to...
I think she could do certain
Let me just find out from Bernard. Do you think it's a disaster if there isn't a deal?
Well, it depends what you mean by a deal. I mean, I agree with everybody that the idea we're going to finish up with a comprehensive trade agreement with the EU within 2 years, that is extremely unlikely, not least because the EU would find it very, very difficult to agree such a deal. It takes the EU a very long time to agree these things. So I think Anna's right that we finish up with some kinds of transitional arrangement. Now, what we should hope for is that we will sign sensible arrangements for customs facilitation and memorandums of understanding on product recognition and that sort of thing, which the EU has with every other country it trades with in the world, whether or not it's got a trade deal. And hopefully we'll get the EU to accept our offer of free trade, that is zero tariff on manufacturers, so that we can carry on trading more or less as we do at the moment. Now, if the EU can't accept that, or they want us to pay too much for that, that's the point at which we have to say, no, that's okay, we'll pay the tariffs. And there will be a process of adjustment if we have to introduce tariffs, but the adjustment will be much more severe for some of the industries on the European Union that export so much more to our country than we do to them. And the British Exchequer will raise billions and billions of pounds from the import tariffs from the European Union, which we can spend on supporting the motor industry and inward investment and investment allowances and grants for science and technology and other things that make us competitive.
I mean, the point is, Anna Soubry, if you go into negotiations saying we have to come to a deal at the end of 2 years to ensure stability, you've lost your hand, haven't you?
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, I think that the Prime Minister does want a deal. I think the reality...
We all want a deal.
Well, I'm glad, because I'm afraid there are lots of people on your side who absolutely don't want a deal. Well, they want us to fall off the cliff edge and go hanging.
First, to start, there's no cliff edge. I mean, unless the EU is completely insane and not going to sign anything with us, not even the most basic customs facilitation deals, well, that would be... I mean, I can't believe that the EU is as insane as that or as incapable of that.
But it's the time, Bernard, that it will take to do anything.
No, it doesn't take... No, this is really simple stuff. Look, all our product standards...
Are you saying that this whole negotiations period is simple?
A comprehensive free trade agreement is a complicated thing, except where there was one huge advantage the EU and the UK have. All our regulation is currently aligned. We're not like, say, the EU and Canada or the EU and China, where they've got to think about how they deal with all the misalignment of their regulation. We start from the same business. A car in the UK is the same as a car in the EU. It's exactly the same. And we don't need to stop them at the borders to prove that they're cars.
Bernard, the problem is, this idea, you've got to be really honest with people, this idea that it's a simple process on trade. It's not about trade.
That's not what I said. Don't misrepresent what I said, Anna.
But there are four deals to be done.
There are... even if we come out of the EU without any trade deal, we will still have customs facilitations arrangement, product recognition, all these things have got to be important.
Do you want there to be a formal deal at the end of the 2 years of negotiation? Or do you want the UK to walk away having another chip to bargain with?
When you say another chip to bargain with, I mean, the EU is the demandeur in this negotiation. They're asking us to give money. They're asking us to make concessions. We are offering a blanket offer. We're saying, look, you can have access to your biggest export market, the United Kingdom, exactly as you do now, without any costs or tariffs, if that's what you want. The choice is for the EU. They've got to decide.
Bernard, this
They've
is
got to
madness.
decide.
We do not hold the cards. When
Yes,
are
we
you
do.
going to?
Yes,
Bernard,
we do.
there are 27 members left in the EU. We need them much more than they need us. Look, I'm sorry.
In everyone's
got to be
mutual
real
advantage,
and honest about it.
It's certainly at everybody's mutual advantage that we should have a free trade agreement and zero tariffs and recognition of financial services and all those things. But frankly, we are in a much stronger position than them. We're going to have a
Would you then say that-
substantial...
Hang on a minute.
Would
We've
you then
got to
say-
get
sorry,
4
Anna-
deals.
Anna
We've got to
Susan.
get
Sorry,
customs.
hang on. One at a time,
Would
please.
you then say...
Well, you haven't let me explain this thing about the 4
Okay, how many-
hugely complicated deals we have to do. One, we have to sort out European citizens, EU citizenship. That in itself is difficult. Secondly, we have customs to sort out. Thirdly, we have trade to sort out. And fourthly, we have to do a bespoke, remember these are all bespoke deals which have never been done before, on security. And we're going to do all of that in about 18 months. And some of it's simple.
Well, one
And
difference
it's
between
just,
you
you're
and me,
just
Anna,
not
is...
being honest with people about what's happening here. And actually what we're
if I can
really
get a
doing...
word in edgeways.
Well, I haven't said very much. And I just need to say this. All of this madness, this complexity, this nightmare of detail, repeal bills, when actually what we're doing is we're walking away from 500 million customers and what we have at the moment, a single market which has provided decades of prosperity for our country.
Which
and we're going
needs
into
to
this
be-
No, you've lost that
nightmare.
argument.
Which needs to be
And
negotiated.
people don't buy that argument.
And
No,
Bernard,
that's
you
a
are saying
different
that these
argument.
negotiations can carry on, but would you be prepared to walk away? Do you think we can walk away and not pay any
Well,
money?
if they ask us to... Well, first of all, Article 50 is very clear. All our obligations fall away when Article 50 reaches the end of the process. We won't have to pay a penny if we don't want to.
If no deal is struck,
if
and
no
then
deal is
and then
struck.
the EU has
Now,
the choice to take the UK to court.
No, they wouldn't, because Article 50 is in the treaties of the European Union, and that trumps any Vienna Convention or international treaty rules. They replaced the international treaty rules for leaving the EU with Article 50. So that's the law that would apply. The idea that the European Court of Justice would disapply their own treaties and apply international law, I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
So you're telling people that we can just walk away
Yes.
and we'll have no bills
Yes.
at all, and we walk away onto WTO
well, if we-
rules and regulations and tariffs, and no customs deal?
No, there would have to be a customs deal. But I come back to this. Do you really believe the EU would be insane enough not to do a customs facilitation deal with the United Kingdom when they do it with America, with whom they don't have a trade deal? They do it with any number of countries they don't have trade deals with.
It's this
And
very-
I'm going to get you to answer that question, and then
do you
I'm
think
going to
BMW would be happy with that arrangement?
I
Bernard
just think,
Jenkins.
Bernard, that this idea that we hold all the
So
cards...
you do think they are insane?
No, I think we're insane,
Oh, right, okay,
Bernard,
well, I got that,
for
yes.
saying to
Well-
people and not being honest with people about the complexities
On that
and the
note-
dangers to our economy.
On that
and
note,
jumping off the cliff.
Thank
No
you for
cliff.
thank you for a very energetic
very
conversation and
much.
debate. Anna Soubry, Bernard Jenkins, thank you.
I've been getting